What we felt after speaking to that player was, after the initial night and then the subsequent following days, that he was okay. He was acceptive of the apology. It was a sincere apology, and nothing was ever spoken in the years to come about that. Even speaking to the player 9 or 10 years on, he'd never had a second thought about that night.
These are strong men. They did not let things like this happen and go unnoticed. They clamped it.
But I do not accept and I reject absolutely nothing that I in any way. It's an awful slur for anyone to have to bear. We are in a good place. Hawthorn is in a good place. Have we made some mistakes and stuff? Yes, we have. Have I made some mistakes? Yes, I have. But let me tell you, at the end of the day, the strength of the whole is more important than the motivations of some journalists.
More important than the motivations of some journalists. When you run out of excuses, you have a go at the media. That's the old rule. Caro, you've set the town talking again, and it's all about your Cyril Rioli story. And there were some fascinating articles, one of which was yours on the weekend that caught my eye, and one of which was Mark Robinson's. This is the Leon Egan story that you wrote on the front of The Age. Some fascinating insights there. Egan saying that they are victims of their own success. Doesn't excuse it, but that's the way it was. And then separate to that was Mark Robinson's piece with Michael Long. The headline, I think, says it all, Caro. Cyril needs help.
Well, I've got no doubt that Cyril's decision to talk to me and his wife Shannon's decision to talk to me was a cry for help. But I thought it was a pretty cynical adornment of that column in the Herald Sun by Mark Robinson, which were all pictures of Cyril looking really happy and celebrating with Clarko and Jeff and his teammates, etc. Just because Cyril Rioli wrote an article in Athlete's Voice in 2018 and didn't mention the issues he articulated with me doesn't mean they didn't exist. Just because Jeff Kennett might say passionately that he is not a racist. Nobody said he was racist. I certainly didn't, and neither did the Riolis. They described that incident as belittling and humiliating and the final straw for them after a series of previous racial red flags. I must say...
He's also been racist in the past in different issues.
Well, I didn't say he was racist. And for him to say that it's the motivations of one journalist trying to bring down the Hawthorn Football Club is to ignore a deep-seated and very serious issue that I think many clubs, including Hawthorn, need to face up to. And to hear Dermot Brereton talk about these big, strong men, including Jordan Lewis, who was probably definitely a great on-field leader, but was clearly, listening to him, woefully ill-equipped to deal with that incident involving an Indigenous player and another teammate. I mean, why was it swept under the carpet? Why did Sean Burgoyne never get told? Why did the Indigenous liaison officer, Leon Egan, never find out? Both those men, by the way, including Burgoyne, really disappointed. It was never taken to them. The place was not culturally aware of the way they should be handling these incidents.
Well, how did you view Mark Robinson's article then? Because I actually thought it put a different perspective on everything. I view yours and Mark's different. Like, yours is going back and looking at what went on at Hawthorn and that they didn't handle themselves as well as they should have. And I then look at Robbo's as an uncle who's concerned about Cyril, and he's wanting the onus to go onto Cyril in terms of getting his life on track and looking at himself and not blaming others for everything that's going on. Not what went back on now, but where his life is currently at. So I did like the Mark Robinson's article as well, for what it's worth.
Well, that was an interesting article, and it's a different perspective, but it doesn't erase Cyril's recollections of what happened at Hawthorn. And Michael Long is saying that if Cyril's issues have got nothing to do with race, I just dispute that. I mean, I dispute that. It's unfortunate that the article did carry a few insinuations.
Like what?
Well, Cyril's in trouble and he's got an issue, but we can't talk about what it is.
Well, that's understandable, isn't it?
Well, the other insinuation was, and this happens all the time in footy, I shouldn't be surprised, blame the woman. When something goes wrong, it's the wife's fault.
Was that in the article?
Yeah, Michael Long spoke about Shannon Rioli.
So when you say it was a cry
and a lot of the players are talking about Shannon and they're talking to me about Shannon and partly blaming her, and I think that's just happened.
It's a nasty undertone.
Well, look, it's so typical. It has happened so often in the past.
But Michael can only give his version of events, Caro. So,
but isn't it?
I'm not bagging Michael Long. I'm saying don't run an article and say because Cyril didn't mention this before, it's not real. This is an article about a football club who did not come to terms with becoming properly culturally aware when they had so many Indigenous players. They refused to put money into the programs. They refused into paying an Indigenous liaison officer that even Sean Burgoyne was really asking and urging the club to do. So I just think to say that these were big, strong men and great leaders, they didn't handle that incident well, and it was a terrible incident, as were several others.
Kane, we sat here last week.
We did.
And you told us to hold fire
2 weeks ago.
on Hawthorn. Sorry, 2 weeks ago. Now, we still don't ultimately know what the truth is. We'll find out after the course of 23 rounds. But I think a lot of your concerns were vindicated on the weekend.
Yeah, my concern is around the talent on the list and them neglecting the draft. So that was my comment, that they're the list I'd least like to have heading into the season, and that Sam Mitchell had been set up to fail by past list management mistakes. And I want to take a look at their midfield and the names that are going through the midfield and the lack of impact that they are having, and also the future is an issue for them. So if we have a look at the players that went through the midfield yesterday, we might not have that on the screen here, but I can tell you. Oh, there they are.
Yeah,
there. So
they are.
Jago O'Meara's gone to the centre bounce 72 times this year. Tom Mitchell, Newcombe, Warple, Ward, Nash are the most prominent. They're all the same player. They're essentially the same type of player. Where's the different type in there? Where's the bigger bodied, or where's the speed, or where's the one that is bursting forward and kicking goals? And also, which of those names will actually even be on the list in 3 years? So that would be my concern about the list, and we're seeing what's gone on, and there will be no quick fix for Sam Mitchell and Hawthorn, and I reckon my comments will probably be proven to be pretty accurate.